What do you feel when you hear this sound? A shiver? Slight hint of nostalgia? Peace, perhaps? The PlayStation 2 will be turning 25 years old this March. And yet, after all those years, people still enjoy spending time with it. In the 2000s, Sony was nervous about games not coming out with their new product. Little did they know that a massive library of game titles would be forever anchored to the next-gen console. And the brightest story that stood out the most was GTA San Andreas. Coming out in 2004, GTA sold over 17 million copies. The map contains 3 cities that you can travel to without any loading screens, which was a sensation back then. The game also contains numerous RPG elements like hunger, being overweight if you eat too much, physical fitness, driving, and weapon skills. And also on top of that, character customization. I always wondered how Rockstar managed to pull all those features into a small box that has lower performance than your grandma's Android from Beijing. Even with our technological advancement, PS2 emulation is far from perfect, mainly because of its complicated infrastructure. I am in no way explaining it to you how the guts of the PlayStation work, although the components are given some pretty cool names. Emotion Engine for a CPU, and Graphics Synthesizer for a GPU. Who in the world would call it that? Of course, those guys. Anyways, it took 2 years to develop San Andreas. Some developers were working overtime just in order to finish the project in the right time. Rockstar's workers also visited San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles to gather photos, as some of them were used for textures.
Is he available for communication? Who?
The game is built on a game engine called Renderware, which is responsible for the half-empty, liminal vibe of the games made in the 2000s. Renderware is no longer available as it was exclusively available for big studios. It's kinda sad, as Renderware really became an urban legend after all those years. So yeah, the PS2 version of GTA San Andreas can be so goddamn liminal at times. And since the graphics were so limited back then, you can literally see buildings spawning in. The sunlight and its red hue, the ways objects spawn as you drive, and also how the NPCs speak to each other in ways that make no sense. Honestly, this game can have a very weird effect on your mind, even if you don't despawn anyone. Now obviously that wouldn't be a liminal space, since it's often referring to the middle point between place A to place B. A hotel hall is a good example, but we see that too in GTA San Andreas. Alright, let's start off with CJ's house. This place has a very weird charm to it, or at least it does for me because, well, I didn't really know how to progress correctly
For communication.
back in my childhood days. The missions were too hard and I couldn't really understand what I was supposed to do in each mission. In any case, if you've ever owned a property in San Andreas, you'd know that you're going to see the same posters
For
in other properties, which is a tiny bit odd. That aside, what is the point of a lamp guard if there is no lamp? Going down to the living room, you will see this image of a woman and a man. Now, I'm assuming that this is CJ's mom in her younger days. But the thing is, you can see her as a normal NPC in the game, and that's neat, I guess. The guy behind him looks like a reskin of Sweet, so... Anyways, I think I found an in-game version of a Playboy magazine in their living room. The reason why I think it's a Playboy magazine is not because I can see a pixel mommy in the front page of the magazine, but rather because you can see the word undress right next to her, which is a weird thing to have in a family living room. Every family functions differently, I guess. But you know what's cooler? Statues. I don't really know how to make a transition. Now, for those of you who have played the game before, you'd probably know that one of the missions with a big smoke occurs here. However, you can come visit this place even before that mission. I'm not really sure what type of building this is, but since it's located to other corporate buildings, I'm assuming that this is just another one. Something that's very interesting about this location is how you can destroy these statues, but usually it causes frame drop. As I was doing research for this video, I found out that this was only a feature in the PS2 version. Obviously, They changed it because of the aforementioned frame drop, which is kinda neat. But you know what else is neat about this building? Is the fact that you can actually look outside. Usually when you own or go into a property in this game, you won't be able to look outside because the windows look like this. And oh my god, that looks beautiful. Honestly, I just love how unrealistic plants and dirt look in this game because it looks like something an alien would make. Next up, we have the Jefferson Motel. As most of you know, one of the in-game missions occurs in this motel, obviously. Now, of course, the difference between being in this place alone and doing the mission are night and day, because this game will always feel liminal or oddly empty if you are not partaking in the in-game story. But I chose this place for a very specific reason. Honestly, it reminds me of a more unique version of Backrooms. At times when I explore this place, I actually get lost because everything about it is so repetitive. The best way that you can find your way back is by looking at the room numbers. Sure, the game developers use different color palette for each room, but that doesn't stop it from feeling liminal. That's not the only part. If you pay enough attention to the exterior of the building, you'll notice these small pyramid windows up top. During the aforementioned mission, those windows break because the police want to occupy the building. I'm not gonna explain why, because there is a small chance that some of you might have not played this game. What is interesting though, on the other hand, is how the game developers didn't think that players might actually try to enter the building before the mission. So the glass doesn't even exist if you are in the interior. But I'm not done yet. I just wanted to say one more thing, and that thing is about the reception. Now keep in mind, I messed around a lot in this game when I was a kid, and ever did I think that there is literally no way to enter the reception. How are you even supposed to get in and out from there? Now, I'm going to be honest to you guys, I'm not even sure what this place is, and I don't even have anything to commentate on because you know that this place evokes a weird feeling by looking at the footage. But what I do want to say something about is the original definition of liminal space. Why? I don't know.
How about getting a job? Maybe a profession? Why this? Because you're stupid?
You see, usually when somebody brings up the word liminal space, they are referring to a place between point A and point B. So, these places serve a transitional purpose, but I disagree with that. Liminal space is just uncanny valley applied to buildings. Whatever this or these buildings are, it doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, is how you know it represents a building that doesn't quite look familiar. That aside, I believe this is where you can have a friend to play with you. I don't have any, so haha.
Okay.
This location is just like the last one in various ways, so I'll just let you see it for yourself.
Best press record at Verona Beach still holds.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% sure what type of building this is. It's not something that you wouldn't be able to find in real life, but still kinda odd. I've seen quite a lot of videos that are about GTA San Andreas liminality, and no, I'm not going to talk about Mount Chiliad, because I'm already milking a dead cow here. But one thing that they never mention is this marketplace. The color pattern here is repetitive, the NPC behavior is odd, and at times, the NPCs don't even sit down on these benches. They just go around until the next train arrives. Speaking of which, the train that stops here is usually a cargo train, but oddly enough, the NPCs still buy a ticket and use it as a form of transportation, which just makes no sense. That aside, the textures look like that of a swimming pool. Thinking of it now, it kinda reminds me of the game Pools. All in all, GTA San Andreas liminal feeling is a result of low poly graphics, repetitious rooms, weird NPC behavior, render distance, lighting, and just an odd mix of unrealism and realism. Also, I want to shine some light upon the connection between the game's liminal feeling and the story. GTA San Andreas is ultimately rooted in reality. Officer Tenpenny, the main villain of the story, is based on Rafael Paris, a corrupt police officer who actually made money out of the chaos that the police are supposed to fight against. We see these signs of corruption in the game as well. For example, you can interact with prostitutes, drug dealers, and so on.
I'm at the gun!
But since it's so low poly, there is an automatic disconnect between the story and the game, which is another cause of the feeling of liminal space. You are going out of bound, and what lies beyond that line is something that can't be really explained with words. It's kind of like when you break the invisible wall of Spyro the Dragon. The magical feeling is still there, except it lacks direction because there is no story to lead you. And this leads to the question, can a direct disconnect between the story and the visual cause what a lot of us call liminal space? After all, this motel was designed for us to fight the police officers who ambushed us. So, no wonder why things feel off.